Hey friends, I want to get back to this discussion about accountability and leadership, and I'm trying to do this weather person thing where I'm actually working on the screen behind me. I'm not gonna do it very well, so I'm going to turn every once in a while and face the board. Hope you can tolerate that. I appreciate you tolerating that. But folks seem to like the whiteboard better than presentation material, so I'm doing the whiteboard, and hopefully if you have any feedback, let me know. So yeah, returning to the discussion of accountability and leadership. Last time we were together, we talked about self and other accountability. We also talked about the different types of conflict that can occur between a leader and a follower whenever accountability is in question. And so we talked about task conflict, which is really focused on the process and disagreement or misunderstanding about the process, whereas relationship conflict has gone beyond task conflict to judge the character of a person and what their motives and intents are. And so what we are going to talk about today is transparency. I left that last video off at transparency and promised that we would talk about it again. There is definitely a relationship between transparency and accountability. However, it's debatable. So some people say, hey, look, there is some relationship, but you don't want to overstate that relationship. And I got a great question from a friend of mine from that last video who asked, essentially, let me read it to you so that I get this right. She said, according to your video, it seems that I should be held accountable to others for everything going on in my company. But does everyone really need to know everything? How much information should be transparent? And how do you discern what should be accountable to others in order to develop and maintain a healthy organization? And she put in parentheses, global and international. I think it's a really great question. I certainly didn't intend to imply that we needed to be transparent in order to be accountable. What I was hoping to shed some light on is this relationship between the leader and the follower. So there's always a relationship going on between leader and follower. Some people call that the leader-member exchange or the leader-follower exchange, but we're just going to call it a relationship today. And we understand that the process of influencing the follower to attain shared goals, or any group to attain shared goals, the process of influence is this process of leadership. So when we're leaders, we do influence processes in order to get the follower to attain the shared goals that we have. And in return, there's some sense that the follower becomes accountable to the leader for the things that A, they're promising, so that's self-accountability, and then B, the things that have been legitimately delivered to the follower as requests or tasks or objectives that are legitimate again. And that's others' accountability. So the follower is accountable to the leader whenever the leader is asking them to do something that's legitimate within the bounds of the job description, within the bounds of the relationship, within the boundaries of the organization. So the question is really transparency, and how does it factor in? Well, transparency certainly is a moderator in this influencing process between the leader and the follower. And as with all of these things, we want to make sure that we're starting with what is it that we're talking about, and within what kind of a construct are we talking about it. So the first thing is transparency. Let's define it. When I looked it up in the dictionary starts with this idea of an object's characteristic that allows the thing behind it to actually be seen. Okay, so that's the idea of transparency. And so it's essentially whether or not the object behind is seeable. That's what transparency is. And we've taken that and we've adapted that scientific characteristic of a material, and we've adapted that to discuss how humans interact with each other. And so a person is transparent when we can see what's hidden behind whatever kinds of barriers that they throw up. And in leadership, this is really important. Because the quick answer to my colleague's question is that in any organization, there's an amount of information that needs to be held closely. For example, I had a top secret clearance whenever I was in the Navy. I had special access to some different programs there, and I was required by law to maintain and hold that information a secret and keep it from others, even people who were in the Department of the Navy, and sometimes even members of the same command as me, but the information was compartmentalized, and so for that purpose, I had to keep it secret and not tell anybody that information. I had to not be transparent with that information. That's one thing that we need to be paying attention to. I'll circle back to my colleague's question on global organizations here in a second. But really what we're talking about, and what I was trying to talk about, was this idea of making sure that your motives as the leader and the motives of the organization are clear and seeable to the follower. Otherwise, if you do that, there may be some confusion in the accountability. So we're talking about open communication here. We're not talking about sharing everything, but we're talking about leader taking first steps first, being vulnerable and saying, these are what my motives are, and not hiding those kinds of things from the follower. That's the kind of transparency that fuels good accountability via the influencing process. So let's go back to that idea of information and holding information. Certainly there are cases, like I mentioned, in the Navy, where information has to be close held. And in her question, she talked about this, a global or international country. Well, surely sometimes information that is not protected by laws of the country that the company is headquartered in, or that the operation of the company is headquartered in, sometimes the laws of that country don't pertain to work that's being done in another country. So, for example, if there's a data warehouse that's been outsourced to an operation that's in a different country, or not outsourced, but it's established in a different country, and that country has different laws concerning the information and working and job relations and labor relations, then certainly there may be some reason to hold on to information. And I'm talking about information at this point. I'm not talking about motives of the leader. I'm just talking about information. There are cases, though, where information is actually being withheld and it's not legitimate. So the question is, what do we need to do to share? What do we need to be transparent with whenever we're talking about this leader-follower relationship? Well, you start at the end and you work your way backwards. Starting at the end, there are some shared goals that the leader and follower in relationship with each other have. And that's essentially their purpose in being together in this relationship has to do with those shared goals. So the leader needs to make sure that he or she is transparent with any kind of information that is not compartmentalized, not classified in any sense of the word, but share that information, whether it be the intents of their motives, the purposes of the task at hand, why we're doing things a certain way versus not another way. All those kinds of things and pieces of information need to be available to the follower so that they can attain their shared goals. The question really gets down to, what does this follower need to succeed? And whatever that follower needs to succeed, if it's lawful and legitimate to give it to them, then really the leader has the responsibility to be transparent in the influencing process, and they can expect better accountability back through that leader-member or leader-follower exchange. And I'm just going to write up here something that we're going to talk about next. Hopefully you can read my writing, but that says trust. So next time we talk, we're going to be talking about trust. Hope you join us. See ya.